What's up, everyone? It's your boy Ailurus, and today we're doing another installment of the r/EntitledParents series. So, to those who are new to the channel and aren't quite aware with the no commentary story reading style of video, that's exactly what you're watching here. I'm not going to add a lot of commentary. All I'm going to do is just make sure you guys have something to listen to while you're chilling, or while you're playing video games, or eating, or drawing, or maybe even want to hang out with me, your favorite panda boy. So yeah, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Alright, so our first story comes from user DarkSoul89. My boyfriend just told me this story, and I thought it belonged here. When he was 14, he was living with his mom and sister on a housing estate. It was summer, and he liked a bit of light in his upstairs bedroom, so he left the curtains open at all times. That included when he was getting dressed and after having a shower, so if you purposefully stared at his window, you could see him from only the waist up. Well, their neighbor didn't like that one bit. She went pounding on their door, yelling at my mother-in-law that her son was some disgrace and was hanging around always naked and exposing himself to her daughter, same age as him. My mother-in-law told her that he had every right to do whatever he wanted in his bedroom, and if they didn't want to see him, all they needed to do was not look. A couple of days went by, and lo and behold, the police showed up at their door. Turned out the neighbor had been filming and taking pictures of my boyfriend to show the housing people as evidence of his wrongdoing to get them kicked out. Except that the housing office called the police on her for taking pictures and videos of an underage kid and kicked her and her family out. That is really strange. I wonder what her thought process was. I'm sure anybody else in that situation would just close their own blinds so they wouldn't have to see a naked kid every morning, getting dressed. But no, instead she chooses to commit a felony so she could get another family kicked out of their housing estate because she thinks that the son is hitting on her daughter. That is some strange logic. Our next story comes from user RFFan234. I'm writing this at midnight while trying really hard not to mentally break down. Today was my 16th birthday. Now, unlike any other kids, I asked for nothing other than a day to watch movies, no studying, and to just have fun, because, Corona and online classes. My mother didn't like that at all. My morning began with listening to her usual, "Get up, lazy ass, you're a failure." She didn't even care about my birthday. I asked her if she knows about my birthday, and she says in an angry way, "Yeah, I know it, so what?" I decided to binge watch my favorite film series, John Wick. I was on chapter 2, when she started to come into the living room every 10 minutes and tell me, "So you're not gonna study? Good luck on ruining your life," and tell me how hard she's working to provide for the family. A few minutes later, after chapter 3 began, I left the living room out of frustration. Then around 1:30, my nice aunt came to our house with a cake. My mother put on a good parent face. After I cut the cake, my aunt left our house. My mom again started ranting to my dad and me. My dad couldn't say anything as he was not making good income because of the pandemic. My heart broke on dinner. She verbally abused me the entire time. I left the table without finishing my dinner. I went to the bathroom and burst into tears. My father heard me crying and before going to bed consoled me and said, "Don't cry, son. Ignore insults. You have me. Maybe I couldn't give you something this year, but I will next year." What he said to me was the best thing that happened to me today, but I'm still broken on the inside. My friends are asleep, so I posted this here. Thought I would get some support from you guys. I have more stories about her. Edit 1. Thank you so much for the support and wishes. This is the first time so many people have wished me a happy birthday. I just woke up seeing all of your support. I cried in joy. Thank you, and be safe and be happy. Many of you are asking why I can't leave my house after I'm 18. So here's the thing. In India, by law, you can actually leave your house and live alone. However, the society and even the police won't help you. And it's not easy finding an apartment for 1 or 2 people at a cheap price here. If you leave your house, you go live alone. The police will bring you back to your house, and my life is basically an example of most Indian teenagers. Wow, can you imagine not having fun on your own birthday, the one day that you're allowed to kind of relax, and that being taken away from you because a parent is projecting their failures onto you? Because what it sounds like is that she's calling you a failure and lazy because, well, she probably thinks that of herself, and she doesn't have the mental aptitude or the emotional intelligence to handle that, so she lashes out at her own child. That's pretty awful. Our next story comes from user ChaoticNature32. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I just bought my first house. It has 3 bedrooms, a yard, and it's just what I need right now. I'm single and have 2 dogs and a cat. My sister's 34 and has 3 children and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. Lately, she's been talking about how such a tiny living space is not enough for the 4 of them. When she got to know about the house I had bought, she became very upset and told me that I was being wasteful, as I'm single and I don't have kids and therefore don't need such a big space. I reminded her that what I do with my hard-earned money is none of her business. She went on to complain to her mother about how selfish I was being. Yesterday evening, I got a call from my mom telling me I should let my sister and her kids move into the house. My house. I told her that no one was going to live in the house that I paid for but me, and that extra space would be great for my dogs to play in. My mom also got very upset with me, told me I was being unreasonable, that my sister's kids are growing and need space more than my dogs. I offered to help my sister out financially so she could rent a bigger space, and my mom got my sister on the phone who shot down the idea. You see, she told me that I needed to let her and her kids live in my house. When I refused again, she generously suggested a compromise. I could live in the house with her and her kids, and would not have to find anywhere else to live. She said this as if she was doing me a favor. I told her that she lost her mind and immediately hung up. However, my mom and sister kept pestering me. You see, she was trying to guilt trip me by telling me that my sister had been crying over not being able to live in a nice house like mine. I got fed up and decided to shame them. I made a similar post about this entire situation on Am I the Asshole, and most of the commenters could hardly believe how entitled my mom and sister are. They got bashed pretty badly. After getting the verdict, I decided to send my sister and mom to the link to this post, letting them know how I made it, and as expected, they freaked out. My mom texted and called many times telling me how much of a horrible daughter I am, and how I've embarrassed her in front of so many people. I told her to calm down, as these are all strangers on the internet who have no idea who she is. But asking my mom to listen to reason is like asking my cat to stop shoving things off of horizontal surfaces. So I told her I would talk to her when she's willing to act like an adult. My sister's been crying about this to my mom and any other relative who will listen. Most of them won't. They'd been on my side since the start and agreed that my sister's demands are ridiculous. They think that this whole thing is hilarious. Our last story comes from DC Holic 19. I'm 19 years old and my parents' second child. I have 3 brothers, 21, 13, and 7, and a sister, 16. We grew up poor and our parents were often dependent on financial help from relatives, friends, etc. for raising us. This is because even though my dad has a mediocre job and my mom doesn't work, they just kept on popping out one kid after another. And my parents are very religious and believe that children are a gift from God. Personally, I think that's total BS. My parents' reproductive choices wouldn't have bothered me if it hadn't caused mine and my siblings' lives to turn to shit. While growing up, we never had new clothes or toys. We had to accept handouts from family members who were better off, and we never went out or did anything fun. To top it off, we were well aware that the rest of the family looked down on us for constantly asking for handouts. Now, my brother and I have managed to get into good colleges and are looking forward to a future that would be better off than our parents' lives. He and I were staying at our parents' place for a while due to the lockdown, and one morning my parents called all 5 of us into the living room. My mom said she had great news. The smile that was forming on my face died a quick death when she said, "We're pregnant." I lost my temper and I asked them how they could be so stupid and irresponsible. Do they not have enough financial troubles already that they have to bring in another mouth to feed? My brother tried to calm me down, but I was livid. After a lifetime of scarcity because of my parents' stupidity, they had still not learned their lesson. I asked them how they planned to provide for the kid, and my dad told me that I would have to give up the money that my great uncle had left me. He had left all 5 of us some money, which we could access when we turned 18. I said hell no. That money would help pay for my college expenses. He called me selfish for not being there for my family, and I told him if they couldn't provide for the kid, they should get an abortion. My mom started crying and called me a heartless monster. Dad told me that he was disgusted with me, and I told him that there was no way I was going to pay for their stupidity, and the only thing I'd be willing to pay for is a termination. What I was really worried about was my siblings' lives getting even worse. My older brother and I have escaped our parents' clutches, but the others, especially my younger sister, will be expected to help take care of this baby. No teenager deserves to have their adolescence ruined by diapers and a screaming baby. I know what that's like, as I had to go through that. It was expected of me to be an unpaid nanny to my younger brothers and sister. My older brother could go out with his friends and have fun, but I had to stay home and help give baths and feed the toddlers. I decided to get some family members involved so they could talk some sense into my parents. I called my mom's maternal cousin, and she's one of my favorite people. And when I told her that my mom and dad were having another kid, she reacted with, "Wait, what, again?" I told her everything and how they expected me to hand over my inheritance, and she was going to speak to my parents and told me not to sign over anything. I promised her I wouldn't, of course I won't. And I also called 2 of my cousins, one of whom is an accountant, so she could explain to my parents how much of a financial liability this baby's going to be and try to convince them to either abort or give it up for adoption. I moved out of my parents' home a few days ago. I was going to stay there till lockdown was relaxed, but I can't bear to listen to my mom's nagging about how this baby is a blessing and that I want to kill it. I've moved to a friend's basement for minimal rent. My mom's cousin paid them a visit a week ago and tried to tell them that they weren't doing this child any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. My mom was very rude to my aunt and told her that a woman who chose to remain barren will never understand a mother's love. My aunt never wanted kids nor had any, one of the reasons why she's my fave. My dad told her to get out, and my aunt told me that there was nothing that she could do. But she did try. I didn't blame her. The cousin tried to explain the economic impact that this kid would have and my mom cried about how everyone was trying to take away her baby. The intervention didn't do anything, so now I've decided to cut contact with my parents. I just can't watch my family slide further into a hellhole. I'll be maintaining contact with my sister, 16, just to make sure my parents don't, brainwash her. My older brother is going to stay in touch with all of them, which is a good thing, as he can act as a link between me and other siblings if my parents ever forbid them from talking to me. Otherwise, I'm done with these people. Update. Yesterday afternoon, I got a call from my older brother. He told me that my mom has miscarried. This is hardly surprising as she's in her 40s, and I felt a huge wave of relief wash over me. My siblings' lives would not be worsened by my parents' insistence on adding another mouth to feed that's already on a tight budget. My sister would not be asked to give up her inheritance so they could have their money for her new baby. My brother told me my mom had been crying all day, and while I did feel bad for her, I was still glad to hear about the miscarriage. I feel like we dodged a giant bullet, and my brother asked me to move back in for a while to help comfort my mom. I told him I wasn't going to because 1, my college would reopen in a few days, and 2, I'm done with all this family drama. However, I did agree to come visit my mom, if only out of courtesy. In the evening, I went over to my parents' place. I took chocolate chip muffins for my mom, which I know she likes. My sister greeted me at the door and told me my mom had been in bed all day. After greeting my dad, I went into their bedroom. My mom was sitting up on the bed. I told her I was sorry about what happened and placed the muffins on the bedside table. She looked at me angrily, then threw the muffins at me. She screamed at me and said that I lost her baby because of me, and she said that I caused her stress, which caused her to miscarry. She said I was probably glad her baby was dead, which is true, but of course I didn't point that out. She called me a witch and said that I wished this upon her. She was screaming so loudly, all my siblings and dad came rushing into the bedroom. She yelled at me to get out, and I did. I hugged my older brother and sister before I left. My dad told me my mom was right, and that my cruelty caused her to miscarry. I told him that was a grossly unfair accusation and reminded him at mom's age, it's quite common to miscarry. And then I walked out. I'm so done with my parents' stupidity. I can only hope they won't try for another kid. Now, I included this story because there was a split opinion about who truly was the entitled person in this situation. Was it the mother or was it the daughter? After reading all of this, the way that I look at it is that yes, the parents, the mother, and the father are making a very grave decision about bringing another life into this world if they cannot afford it, if they need to request money from their siblings, especially if that money is from an inheritance that was, given to these kids to use for their futures. I think that's grossly unfair and a really bad decision to make, but it seems like their decisions are based in faith, and they're also adults. If they want to make bad decisions, you gotta let them do it. It's truly unfortunate that the kids in the situation that cannot move out have to struggle in a family that has less and less money because more and more people need to be fed. It's an awful situation, and I think the daughter who's writing this story is a little bit out of her lane. I understand that she cares about her younger siblings and don't want them to experience what she did, but she's an adult and you're out of it. I think it's in your best position to just leave the family. I don't think you should be telling your mother whether or not she's supposed to have an abortion or give up a child. It's not really your position anymore, but that's just my opinion. And it really didn't sit right with me when she kind of was happy that her mother had a miscarriage. That's really not something that you're supposed to be joyful about. I think you're supposed to show a little bit more empathy, especially if someone loses a child. I think that was a little bit rude of her to be like, oh, thank God she lost her kid and probably has some psychological damage. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think just the parents were completely in the wrong and that the daughter was completely in the right, or vice versa? Or do you think both sides were crappy in this situation? I would love to know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys at the end. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ailurus, aka Panda Daddy. Now, hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, let me know in the comments down below, and leave a like if you liked the video. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe, fam. What you doing watching videos and not subscribing? And if you're all, make sure to hit that bell so you get these notifications every time. Seriously, I hope you enjoyed today's content. I wanted to make sure you guys got another installment of the r/EntitledParents series, and like I said before, if you enjoyed it and you want more of this, let me know in the comments down below and leave a like so that the YouTube will request this video and share it with as many people as possible so that other people can enjoy these really, really awful stories. And that is very, very important. We need to make sure that everybody gets to see this video. And as always, we gotta thank the Patreon supporters. Thank you to Trey, Muffy Lou, Brody, Noah, Sir Teacup, Ethan, John Robinson, Arolina, Jason, Catherine Taylor, Pixie Love, Pixie Art 5, Keith Myers, Bunny Boo, Candek Plant, Taki, Hannah, Hostmar, Vermont, Trenton Golden, Yeetmaster, Will Billy, Arjun, and Dustin. Thank you so much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And if you want to help support the channel, there are 2 links in the description. One to my merch store and one to my Patreon. Both funds go directly into the channel so we can maintain what's happening here. And as always, stay zesty.